Welcome to the podcast that focuses on simplifying your TIAA accounts. Your host, Greg Shepard, is an independent fee-only financial advisor that specializes in helping folks in higher ed get the most out of their TIAA accounts.
Hey there, folks. Welcome to the podcast that is dedicated and focused on keeping it simple when it comes to TIAA accounts and your life that's embedded within those accounts, okay? This episode, it's going to be a good one. I did a YouTube video on this, and it garnered quite a bit of attention. So I decided to parlay it or transition it into a podcast episode. So here we go. I'm going to tell you what you're doing wrong, okay? Very ominous, right? What you're doing wrong when it comes to retirement planning, portfolio construction, and the execution of said portfolio. So hang tight. Again, my name is Greg Shepard. I specialize in helping folks just like yourself, assuming you're in higher education, basically just get the most out of that oftentimes confusing higher ed retirement plan. These episodes are typically talking about and unraveling the complexities of TIAA strategies, accounts, everything dealing with TIAA. I do have an independent fee-only investment advisory firm here in the Kansas City area, but with the evolution of technology, I'm able to help folks all over the country. So if you find yourself confused, overwhelmed on this episode or any of my episodes, by all means, get in touch with me and we'll unconfuse you. Email is greg@shepardfinancial.com, Greg at SHEPARD financial.com. Before we really get going, I've been instructed that this one sentence keeps the attorneys at bay, and that sentence is as follows. Investment advisory services offered by me, Greg Shepard, as an investment advisor rep of S&A Financial Services, which happens to be a registered investment advisor. Okay, let's move on. Let's get into what you're doing wrong out there, okay? So how I'm going to tackle this, I don't have any notes. I'm kind of shooting from the hip here. I'm just going to give you, my experience, okay? I've been dealing with higher education folks for over 20 years. In that time span, I've been dealing with TIAA accounts as well for that period of time. And so I got a lot of examples I can extract from on this topic. I'm going to keep it simple. I'm going to keep it relatively brief. So with that being said, I'm going to start off, I'm going to preface with what I think the reason behind, the driver behind why I think you all folks, all you good folks out there are doing this wrong. And it's not nothing derogatory, nothing really intentional on your part. So instead of tripping over my words, let me just get into it. So you folks out there in higher education, in a good way, you've been with your career, been in your career for like 30 years. Most of you, okay? Not everybody, of course, but most of you out there, it's not a job, it's a career. So with that being said, you've been with your current employer or a few different employers in higher ed for the span of 3 or 4 decades. In that time period, you obviously have been contributing to a retirement plan. Now, the two big boys in the retirement plan space are either Fidelity or TIAA. So odds are you've had some experience with those two vendors, okay? Now, what I'm getting at is that through your accumulation phase, through that 30-ish years, right, everything's gone well. You almost ignorance is bliss in a way where some of you out there have done absolutely nothing when it comes to investing in your retirement plan, and things are going fine. You're making money over the course of time, or maybe unbeknownst to you, you're making money, which may be even better. Ignorance is bliss. Just kind of ignore those things. And over the course of 20, 30 years, markets typically go up, right? So you have a good bucket of money. Now, same thing with Fidelity and TIAA, okay? We're kind of synonymous in this regard. And again, what I mean by this is that there's a level of comfort, okay? Now, we're just going to use TIA because a lot of you out there have TIA accounts. We'll use them as an example for the vendor going forward. So you're with TIA for 30 years. There's that level of comfort. You meet with that quote-unquote here advisor from TIAA maybe every year, maybe every other year, maybe every 5 years, or whatever the case is. Again, I'm going to keep harping on the fact that there's a level of comfort because you've been with them for 30 years and there's never really been too many hiccups. You've never entertained the idea of paying for outside help, right? Okay, I get it. Why do that when you've got it for free? Now, I can get into that topic for sure. That'll be another episode. I think there's a lot of advantages of paying an outside advisor when it comes to your retirement plan, but neither here nor there, okay, when it comes to this episode. So again, level of comfort, accumulation phase, everything's going well, but then you're transitioning into retirement, right? You're a couple years, 3 or 4 years away from retirement, or you're knocking on the door of retirement. And a lot of you out there are intelligent people, a lot more intelligent than myself, as I found out through the course of 20 years. But I say this cliche all the time. You don't know what you don't know. You may think you know how to invest a retirement portfolio, and I'm going to get into a perfect example, okay? I'll get into it right now. So I ran into a couple, a married couple, a couple weeks ago now, and they did not become clients. I want to disclose that. So not everybody becomes clients that reach out to me, but nonetheless, I feel like I did help them in a manner that was a little uncomfortable for them. So again, a little ominous, but let me get into this this scenario. So he reached out to me. He's married, of course, in this situation. So he reached out to me, and we did a Zoom call, right? He's amassed about a $1 million portfolio split up between many contracts over at TIAA. Getting ready to retire. His wife was on the Zoom call as well. And I'm going to get to the nuts and bolts, the bottom line here without dragging this out. Again, he's done a great job of amassing these funds in growth/tech, just aggressive stuff. He wasn't very conservative, okay? He was a very aggressive investor, and it paid off for him over the course of 30-ish years. And so we got into the discussion about, okay, what are you going to do at retirement? How's this game plan going to set up? And he had the spreadsheet, of which many of you do out there. And what I found over the course of 20 years of doing this is that you folks out there are very capable of coming up with these spreadsheets and flowcharts of how it's going to be accomplished when you retire. But the investment part, I literally haven't found anyone out there, again, not insulting anybody's intelligence, of course, but I haven't found anybody out there that has competently put together a retirement portfolio for purposes of extracting income. Okay, back to this scenario. So this individual said, what I'm going to do is this, and this. Okay, it all sounded great. And then he already had a Vanguard account, obviously had Vanguard outside of TIAA. So he knew about the liquid contracts, the illiquid contracts. He'd done a lot of research, so that was great. So his game plan, again, wife on the Zoom call as well. Well, they're going to move the liquid contracts over to Vanguard. Great. That part is awesome, okay? I'm on board with that. So we got the liquid monies over at Vanguard, and he was actually going to initiate some lifetime income annuity option with that TI traditional. Okay, great. Fantastic. That part of the sleeve, that fixed income is taken care of. Now let's talk about this Vanguard stuff. So I said, okay, Mr. Prospect, what's your game plan over here? Again, very important note, wife on Zoom call as well. So Mr. Client or Mr. Prospect said, well, Greg, I've amassed these monies by doing this, investing in growth tech and some other aggressive stuff in my brokerage link retirement plan, and it's worked out so well, I'm going to continue doing that. And right then, I saw wife's eyes light up like quarters or silver dollars, whatever a large object would be in this case. And I knew what she was thinking, and so I just interjected and said, well, Mr. Prospect, tell me your game plan. I asked him, what's your game plan of extracting these monies? And he in turn stated that, well, these growth investments, they grow, and then I will take money from growth and deposit that into my bank account on a monthly basis. And folks, I've had these conversations so many times. My next response, which I knew that's what he was going to say. So my response is, well, Mr. Prospect, what if growth don't grow? What if growth goes down? Now you got a little bit of a problem. Okay, now you got $1 million, so you got some cushion there. But his response again was, well, markets ebb and flow, which is true, but do you really want to go through those ebb and flows, that volatility during your retirement years? Folks, in this case, he's done, she did as well, done a great job of amassing these funds. Folks, it's over. What I mean by that, monetarily, they're set. If they put together a competent game plan from an investment perspective, they don't have to worry about money. So why in the world would you want to inject volatility for the sake of trying to hit home runs, from a baseball analogy. Okay, so his wife chimed in. Now, she has a lot more influence on, the goings-ons in that household than I do. So she immediately said, hey, I side with Greg. We're going to have a discussion, because she didn't want to air out the dirty laundry there on the Zoom call. And he did conform in the sense that he saw where I was coming from and agreed that they needed investments that were income-producing investments, okay? And what I mean by that, investments in the form of bond ETFs, mutual funds, fixed income mutual funds, actively managed funds, maybe some stocks in there that produce dividends. But why would you want to get into, he was going to do some Bitcoin stuff and some tech stuff. None of this stuff produces any income. So again, I told these folks, it took me not 5 minutes, probably 30 seconds to put together this little chart I have and showed them if you did this correctly, you could just live off the interest. You might dip into the principal a little bit, but you're done, okay? You guys did a great job. Don't mess this up. Now, again, he's an engineer, which is perfectly fine. I actually have engineer clients, but again, these engineers and other folks as well, I'm not picking on engineers, figured he could do it himself. He didn't have a clue on the interest-bearing investments I was speaking about. Neither did she, okay? But he's going to do his own research, which is perfectly fine. But I guarantee he's going to come back, overthink it, and probably get into some stuff that doesn't really make sense. Overlapping folks in the bond world, okay? You got to be careful, because not each bond investment is manufactured the same. They do different things given different interest rate environments, okay? So I don't know if I'll hear from them again, beside the point, but that's a great example. He and she are not alone. I talk to these types of people all the time. You folks out there, not everybody, okay? Not everybody, okay? I don't want to lump in those that really know their stuff when it comes to investment construction, but a lot of you out there just do not have the investment acumen, don't have the time, desire, knowledge to construct and execute a proper retirement income-producing portfolio, period. Okay, I can't be any more black and white regarding that issue. There's one or two things on top of that I'll piggyback off of that I might get into, but while it's fresh in my head, I want you to do three things, okay, folks? Please entertain me and do three things. If you are, within a couple years of retirement, here are those three things I would ask you to do. One, go to, in this case, TIAA. Again, if your vendor's different, Principal, Fidelity, but again, we're using TIAA. So go to TIA, say, hey, I'm retiring here in a couple years, or knocking on retirement's door here next year. Please, sir, ma'am, TIAA rep, put together a plan for me, okay, that you think is appropriate, and here are my income needs, and you kind of give a rundown of your situation. Shouldn't take too long, okay? Now, TIA is going to throw it into some sort of computer and spit out a model, and they're going to come back and say, okay, Mr. John and Jane Smith, here is what we, TIA, propose that you do. Now, sit down, okay, maybe absent of that meeting, okay, at home when you have some time, you're not really kind of pressured, quote unquote, to make a decision at that point. Do you understand that game plan? Okay, I can't emphasize this enough. A lot of you out there, when executing these retirement plans, do not even understand what in the world's going on, okay? So first, do you understand that plan? Do you know the costs associated with said plan? All right? Now, if you're going directly to TIA, they have a model where you can pay for an advisor, all that fun stuff. But make sure you understand the fees, okay? And then thirdly, this may sound silly to a lot of you all, but there's a lot of folks out there that struggle with this. Do you literally know how your money is going to get to your bank account? That may sound funny, but there's folks out there that literally don't know that, which is perfectly fine. Don't feel embarrassed or ashamed to ask that question. Folks, it's your money. You sure as heck better know and understand what's going on. Okay, so first thing I want you to do is go to TIA, ask them to put together a game plan, and follow through with the things that I asked you to do. Do you understand comprehensively the game plan, put in place, the fees, and how you get your money into your account? Second, if you're so inclined, if you have some savvy about you when it comes to investments, put together your own game plan. What does it look like? Again, fees associated with that. Fees, if you do it by yourself, are going to be the actual investment expense ratios, okay? So make sure you understand what I'm talking about when it comes to those fees and costs associated with that portfolio. And then again, how does it all work together? Maybe you have some pre and post-tax money, okay? So make sure you have that game plan set in place. And then again, how does that money get to your account? Okay, do you understand it? That's number 2. You do it yourself, DIY. Number 3, do me a favor, entertain me, and just talk to a fee-only independent investment advisor, okay? I cannot get over, this is a whole different topic. I can't tell you how many folks have reached out to me and said, well, quite bluntly, I don't know what I'm doing. This is you all talking. Not everybody, okay? Not everybody. Don't send me an email and say I'm not, in that category. But a lot of you out there will email me or talk to me actually on the phone and say, well, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't want to go directly with TIAA. I like your videos. I like your podcast. It sounds like you know what you're doing, but I don't want to pay an advisor. Okay, so what's next? So a lot of you have bluntly said, I'm too cheap. I just won't pay an advisor. Well, then don't go down that road, okay, folks? But there's a lot of folks out there, maybe yourself included, that it's too big. How many times have you put together a retirement plan portfolio, income-producing portfolio in your life? Okay, the answer is 0, okay? Let's not beat around the bush because you typically retire once or maybe twice. But even if that's the case, do you have the skill, acumen, knowledge, desire, time to do this, okay? Now, so talk to an independent fee-only financial advisor that specializes, this is important, that specializes in helping folks in higher education, okay? A lot of you out there, again, know advisors, maybe locally, whatever the case is, but those advisors do not know, I can't emphasize this enough, do not know the nuances of TIAA. That's why I stress hiring an advisor or talking to an advisor that has experience with these TIAA accounts. Again, have that individual, have him or her put together a retirement plan portfolio, interest-bearing for purposes of income. Put that together. What are the costs? Do you understand it? How do you literally get money into your accounts? Okay, very, very simple on the face of it. Okay, maybe a little more nuanced and detailed than that. But then again, you have 3 different plans that you can look at. And you make a business decision. Are you comfortable now when it comes to you DIYers out there? I see this time and time again. Do you have the emotional fortitude? Okay, the emotional fortitude. Yes, I'm going there. To construct a portfolio and diligently keep to that game plan. Now, what I mean by that is eventually, folks, this is 2024 right now, early in 2024. We're stepping into April here, 2024. The markets have been doing well, okay? 2023 was good. So far, 2024 is good as well, knock on wood. Folks, there's going to be another 2022 in the bond market. That was not good. There's going to be another 2008 version of 2008. When things go to you-know-what in a handbasket, do you have the emotional fortitude to keep your plan in place? Maybe massage a little bit of it. But a lot of you folks out there will say, I can't handle this. I'm going to cash. Okay, that's usually not a good game plan. Okay, I'm not going to get into all the nuances of that, but a lot of you will do that. So if you have a third party handling your quote-unquote stuff, hopefully that won't take place. All right, so I'm going to go back to the beginning of what I was talking about here, kind of bring it around, wrap it up in a pretty little bow. A lot of you out there are very, very smart people. Okay, you've done some research, you hit the Google bot, and you think you know what you're doing. All right, there are a lot of choices. There are thousands of investment options out there. Do you have the experience, knowledge, desire, savvy, investment acumen to construct an efficient and proper interest-bearing retirement portfolio? Maybe you do, but a lot of you out there, I can promise you do not. All right, so I'm going to wrap this up right now. I can talk about this stuff all day long. I do enjoy it, but we all have good things to do. I'm going to go hit the golf course today. It's late March. It's going to be 78 degrees, and I can't pass those days up. And a lot of you have asked about my golf game. I am absolutely terrible, but I enjoy getting outside and hitting that little white ball around. Okay, Greg Shepard here. Email, best way to get a hold of me is that email, greg@shepardfinancial.com, greg@shepard financial.com. A lot of you have actually used the telephone, go figure, in the past few months. Feel free to call me as well, 913. I'm in the Kansas City area, 913-521. That was 521. Yes, I'm losing my voice. 913-521-2381. All right, folks, I hope you took one or two nuggets away from this episode. As always, when closing these episodes out, folks, go out and take control of your retirement today. Take care, folks.
Thanks for listening to the TIAA Simplified podcast. Just because this episode is over doesn't mean you can't continue your TIAA journey. Please visit www.safinancialservices.com to see how you can work with Greg.
S&A Financial Services is a registered investment advisor. Information presented is for educational purposes only and does not intend to make an offer or solicitation for the sale or purchase of any specific securities, investments, or investment strategies. Investments involve risk and, unless otherwise stated, are not guaranteed. Be sure to first consult with a qualified financial advisor and/or tax professional before implementing any strategy discussed herein. Past performance is not indicative of future performance.